thank God it's Friday. We are awake. We are aware. We are not alone. We are striving for more. We are awake. We are aware. We are not alone. We are striving for more. Audio Radio. Love it!
And welcome back to what was hopefully a quick turnaround. If you're not seeing anything update, make sure you refresh your page in case you might be stuck on our first segment. That's my dog. She heard I was on the horn with Zach, and she knew, oh, Hanky Pank could be close. He's all excited.
Oh yeah, he never really did that. Even when he went to the bathroom, like how he was marking with his paws in the kitchen. He does it everywhere now.
Ooh, that feels good. I like the way that feels.
Yeah.
Up my feet.
You just shake it out. You shake it out, Bubba. Good boy. He's a handsome guy. But yeah, he definitely. I don't know if that just kicked it in, being around her. But yeah, he does it all the time now. Every time he goes and does his business, his number 2.
Well, I thought that was like strange, that way he did that. I hadn't seen many dogs do that.
There's scent pads on the bottom of their feet, so it adds to the marking of their territory. When they drop their deuce for all the dogs to smell, they like to add a little extra. This is me, mother, all over the grass as they skid their feet across it. Yeah, just a little helping them mark it.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. My old dog used to do that, but the new one doesn't. But then again, he's still weeing like a girl, so we'll give him time.
And
he's still curtsying.
I was about to say, I wonder if it has something to do with maybe they get to a certain age, puberty, something like that. Maybe the pads don't do it until a certain time. I mean, I can't imagine they would forget it, you know?
Yeah, right, maybe. Or they just see
As a
another
species,
dog doing it.
Yeah,
very strange.
And again, this is what I've heard. Maybe I'm completely off, but that's definitely what I've heard from several places, none of which I can cite.
Hold on, I'll ask my dog.
Hey, dog, what are you doing that weird shit?
Yeah, you're spot on, he said. And what the hell are you debating flat Earth for?
I've been sitting here listening to you guys, and I got to say, this show's been pretty rough. Because he's a dog.
Rufus.
Rough.
Rufus. Anyway.
Rufus.
Adam, you're in charge of the flight plan.
You've got the itinerary, sir.
You remember in the break when I said everyone slapped themselves in the face?
Now everyone slap Adam in the face.
I think I hear him.
I'm here.
To drain the main vein.
I'm here. Yeah. I was about to say to you, I did say to you in the break, let me get the windows set up. I'll switch it over from the clouds and then put the window on, and then I'll just go and check plumbing from here. But
you must have the bladder of a horse.
Got many things like a horse, mate. Got a really big nose, mate.
Teeth.
Those hooks get awkward.
Yeah, I did promise you something, didn't I? So, can I have a little rant then?
Go for it. Jesus, go for it. Please, say something.
So, like I said, I think people are taking on things that are being presented to us in the flat Earth at the moment as some kind of genuine challenge. And the thing I've noticed over the past couple of weeks is the amount of my time I've wasted investigating stuff to find out it's kind of futile. And I did say on the chat on Ranty's show, I enjoy a little bit. You know, I love a little bit of a maths puzzle. It's always good fun. And I still stand by that. What I don't enjoy is a freaking goose chase where arrogant, egotistical fools are so far up themselves now that they're setting traps, like, say, egotistical fools. It's
He wasn't setting a trap. He got
think-
called out on a fuck up and he wouldn't admit his mistake.
well,
So he claimed he was being clever and setting a trap. That's how I read it anyway.
yeah, I will. Well, I wouldn't do that, but I think from investigating these bits of tat and looking into Miles Delia Davis's stuff and this stuff presented by Conspiracy Cats, it's kind of, I've looked into it, and the thing that's always coming out of it is kind of the point that the video I want to show with Phuket World. The first part is really cool in terms of the horizon moving, especially with the ruler, and I think that in itself is worth the first 3 minutes. But the second point is regards to a lot of the point when you're analysing photography and trying to draw some inference from the image. And as I've been doing a lot of the maths with that, camera angle, Dell points out the centre of the camera tells you where you're pointed. And with Conspiracy Cats 1, and this is what I come to, I do want to mention this. Let me just get me little, I've got my little book. With regard to them setting traps, John, and there's a fair bit of analysis I did on this. And what's interesting is the way they position the camera, where they put it, the height they put it, all these sorts of little things, and how they set the frame up to do the confusion in the maths. And there's a lot of matches with angular resolution, distances and heights. And the number 1.093 crops up in a lot of this. It's to do with lining up this side peak and also the angular resolution of the objects behind. And I think they are being, because you'll see they sit and they present a bit like Soundly. So they sit and present singular evidences, which when you do try and do a bit of analysis outside of the skullduggery they're doing with regards to how they present the information, underhand and deceitful manner, there's also mathematical matches in there, I think, as well. And I think we could waste a lot of our time as flat earthers engaging in this. And I think, certainly for me, if they want to bring something reasonable, presentable and evidenced and analysed and not full of traps and so on, then I'll start to look at it. But certainly for me, I'm not going to be wasting any more time going off on goose chases. But within a lot of that, there was, like I said, as I started before that little mini rant, within a rant, we demonstrated it on Ranty's show how moving the camera angle really does affect the image that the camera perceives, not what you draw in a side perspective of the relevant peaks, but how it really does mess about with the camera and how observer height, angle is key to analysing any image. And this was something me and Ranty spoke about a few weeks ago, about getting him some sort of really quality mount. So some of the stuff he's doing can be really quantified in terms of the angle. And I think that'll be a massive ball destroyer, because anything 90 degrees and above just wrecks them. So with that, if you guys would be kind enough to maybe fill a little bit, I'll get Nick from Phuket's Words video up. John, if you could get your other channel up and maybe listen to it on YouTube, you'll be about 20 seconds behind.
Right. Am I the only one?
No, I don't know. I'm just you and your 3 screens. 3 screens, that's exceeding. That's just, there's no need, mate. 2, fair enough.
Well, I don't normally have this, obviously.
I can
It's just
attest.
that everyone's buggered off. Yeah, you got more screens than I have, I think.
I use 3 generally, but I have a 4th that I can get into if I need to. I've actually got 2 more flat screens down here that I need to get a dual mount for they're like 20-inch monitors I need to get up so I can get this hodgepodge motley crew of monitors that I have out here and get something a little more streamlined.
It's like Starship Enterprise.
It is a Jodderall Bank or something. GCHQ. But here on one of my screens, I've been looking up, quote, if the Earth was flat, quote, on Twitter, because this is what ballers always come at us with, and it just brings up a sort of myriad of nonsense ball claims, and yeah, I'll read a couple out. Do you understand that the plane would not be able to fly if the Earth was flat? All of the calculations done to design and build that plane so it can stay in the sky are based on numbers and data stemming from the size / shape / properties of the Earth. Duh. And you got, you all do understand that if the world was flat, our weather wouldn't exist. But then again, the government could be controlling the weather. But then again, explain fucking waterfalls. If the Earth was flat, water wouldn't be falling. Laugh my ass off. Gravity wouldn't work if the Earth was flat. Neither would the atmosphere, which means as soon as we jump, we'd float off into space.
I'd agree with the latter statement. Gravity wouldn't work, or actually, it would be hard to postulate gravity.
Which gravity?
Well, that they're Newtonian gravity as opposed to Einsteinian is what I would suggest in terms of mass attracting mass. If in any way the Earth is demonstrably flat, which it is, that is in direct opposition to Newtonian gravity, doesn't it?
Well, I think that gravity is synonymous with, relative density. So, as in that one form of gravity that if you drop your mic, it's going to fall to the floor. Duh. I can't really talk to any of the gravity at a distance nonsense, but I mean, gravity doesn't have to not exist on a flat Earth. It's just the understanding of gravity needs to be reduced. If that makes sense.
No, you're sounding like Orwin.
That is nonsense. If the Earth was flat, the stars would be in the same position and we could not see the stars that are below the plane of the Earth. Now tell me how you get night and day on a flat plane that faces the sun. That's one for you, Zach.
How do you get night and day?
Well, your slideshow sort of shows what's happening.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
This is my
Yeah,
own
that's
analysis. Sorry, go on.
fundamental limitation of the physics of any lens with a circular aperture. So it happens with cameras, it happens with your eyes, it happens with most telescopes. This is just...
I suppose that doesn't really cover the night and day thing, though, does it?
Well,
It's
no.
the reach of daylight and what's going on up there in electric circumstances. Sorry, Adam.
No, I was going to say, I think that's a level of detail. Zach's stuff, exactly what you said, basically, was what I was about to say, John. That's a level of detail that isn't covered in Zach's sort of stuff. That's more to do with the vastness of the plane and
Well,
the directionality of the sun's light.
If the Earth was flat, then I should be able to see Paris from New York. Sort of nonsense.
Yeah, I suppose it comes in there, Zach. Wouldn't you agree? Where actually, if it is daytime in China, that it's the Rayleigh's criterion that would diminish that daylight that is visible there with an infinite lens, but it would diminish it with any real lens to invisible because it's too far away because of the criterion.
Well, yeah, the band of light, the angle that it would create would get so small that it would blend in with the angle which becomes diffused along the horizon. If that makes any sense.
Well, let's get into that in a second. I've got the video lined up, and this is kind of more basic stuff as to what I was saying in terms of the observational stuff. And then I think we'll go into Zach's stuff straight after, because that then goes into the detail of how much information you can get in the photo specifically, I think, and where it becomes subject to different levels of mitigation as to what's going off, or different causes as to disruption of the image. But I think this first bit is really pertinent on a more fundamental level, in that it's about, put simply, how you set the bloody camera up, you know, if you and how you angle the camera, and also and the first bit particularly, and I'll stop rambling, is about actually the reality. And when you do the maths a lot, this bit is really pertinent about the horizon and the ball. And it might not be the most visually correct imaging, but if you can imagine it mathematically, it really is super pertinent, this first bit. So if you're all right, guys, I'll there's no point sharing, is there? Or should I share it?
That's fine.
Send me the link and I'll share it.
On Phuket Word, yeah?
No. I said send me the link and I'll share it.
It's smart, it is. I'll press play.
I thought so.
And debunkers, here is a ball, and I'm going to prove to you that horizons that we can see in the distance are not the same as being on a ball. Okay, horizons are not curvature. Here we can distinctly see the results of curvature on this ball. When we rise up, it stays fixed in place. Okay, the horizon quickly drops away because this is a physical curve, and it will stay where it is as we rise above it. Okay, that is what happens when you observe a ball. So now what we do is I'm just putting this on a tripod. Okay, tripod there. Okay, camera's on the tripod now. I'm not sure if it's 100% level. I don't have a leveling thing with it. So I'm going to stick this in the ground. Doesn't matter where, and doesn't matter how deep it goes. It's just to give you a visual reference of what happens to the horizon that doesn't happen to the ball. We keep the ball there. You can see that it just is its thing. So you can take note of where the horizon appears to be right now in the thing, in the camera. And as we rise up, dun, 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 look at that, the horizon remains at our eye level. Okay, come back down again. We can see that as we rise up and down, we go up and down in height, the horizon comes with us. That means that it is a flat surface as far as we can see, okay, compared to this ball down here, which is a fixed curve. So this horizon we see in front of us is not a fixed curve. Do you want to see it again? You can do this every time, okay? The fact that you can do that demonstrates to us that it's flat. You make all the excuses you want, all the explanations you like, but that is flat and that is round. Not the same. We live on a flat earth, and horizons are not curvature. Because look at what the problems you have if you try to measure distances based on horizons. How can you when the horizon is constantly changing? Yeah? You can't measure, you can't have a side-on view and measure the horizon, can you? Can't do that if it's constantly changing with your height and coming with you. It's ridiculous. Okay? Earth is flat, it's not round. Get over it, wake up.
Okay, here's another example. You can see here that this vinegar bottle has a measurable height. Again, this is buried in the sand. It doesn't matter, but let's just say it's 9 inches, okay? That is the height that we can see. Now, as the observer, if that ruler wasn't there, how do we know that's 9 inches? Yeah? I mean, that's, we get closer and farther away, okay? Angular size changes. And here we have one here. Look at this, another bottle, okay? How do you know now that this is 9 inches? Because if we take a line from here to here, it looks more like, I'm not sure from here, but 12, 13, okay? And the higher we go, I mean, so the lower we go, the greater that difference is going to be. Yeah? Okay? So unless you can measure physically the distance, what we see in the camera lens or the eyes makes no difference. Or you can't measure, it's different. Yeah, you can't actually physically measure it. So physical measurement and an observation are different, and we can see that it will vary. All right, but the only thing one thing we can do is get a very direct line of sight. And would you look at that? The horizon is there as well. Okay, we can come down, and the horizon comes down with us. We can come up, and the horizon comes up with us. Yeah. Okay, very simple stuff, and only when we are directly in line with it can we see the real height of the other one. Of course, I could say that I'm in line with it by tilting it like that and bring the other one down. Oh, look at that. The other one's lower now in the background. And I can say, oh, but I'm at the same height because it's at my eye level. Yeah? So, you know, you can tell when you're being deceived. All right? It's very simple to work out. Yeah, to see the difference here. So, see, you can't use this measurement anymore. Has nothing to do with this measurement now, or this apparent measurement now. This is going to be completely different to what this physically is in the background. Yeah? Okay? We can see again that the horizon remains at eye level. Okay, so again, you know, the background it remains at eye level, the horizon. Very simple stuff, okay? Very easy to deceive people who want to be deceived, who want to hold on to a belief. Yeah? If you want to talk about making comparisons and measuring curvature on the Earth, well, first of all, mountains are a ridiculous thing to do, but you have to be at the top, and you have to demonstrate that you're at the top, and then everything will line up. But when you've got pylons going off into the distance, this is what happens when you're below the pylons. It's very simple. Yeah, but of course, this is why we demand a side-on view, because then, if you have it, you'll either see that it is
flat and horizontal, or if one is taller than the other, that's when you will see the curve. Okay? So, there you go. It's just a very simple way of demonstrating what can actually happen. And again, we can see that the horizon, regardless of these objects here, the horizon is always at eye level. Okay? There you go. Should be enough. Thank you very much.
There you go, guys.
That was awesome. I was watching on the YouTube.
Yeah, me too. I love Nick. He explains things so well.
There's a number of topics of debate that are addressed there, and I thought that was awesome in terms of the
Nick's
visual
awesome
presentation.
for bringing these things down to scale, to small scales stuff, and just pointing out the absolute obvious. And he just sums it up nicely. You know when you're being fooled. You know, your eyes know, unless it's an exceptional visual illusion or something, then you just know when something's not right in a picture. And hats off to Nick. I think he does such a cool job. I think he's brilliant. Can't wait to have him on.
There was one bit that I thought was quite pertinent at the end with the vinegar bottles. Nice to see all the way out in Thailand he's managed to get proper malt vinegar, mate, for his fish and chip. Actually, I think he runs a fish and chip place, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I've seen a video like that. So, but with those vinegar bottles, they're objects of the same height at a very short distance away. Okay, you can see how the parallax between those two objects has a massive impact on objects of the same height. So you can try to at least discern what's going off. When you throw in mountains that are 100 or 75 or 100 kilometers away, whatever it is, and then another one another 50 kilometers away or another 100 kilometers away, it's the angles and the way those angles play out within a photograph is not even shown in any form of reality, even in what Nick showed. Give me a sec. I did a little bit of numbers on some of the stuff with the Rainier stuff. What was it?
I mean, I would say, Adam, that it when you're doing this sort of thing, to deal with mountains and hundreds of miles and that sort of thing is asking too much. If you scale this down to small scale, where you can play some sort of giant role, where you can go to the top of this mountain, you can go to the top of that mountain, you take measurements, you can, if you had a landscape, say, I don't know, a rockery or something, then it's so much easier to demonstrate what happens, and it's within scale too, like he did with the lighter and the tin across the dead flat playground, that he was showing the mirages with the kids' feet, that they were mirroring, and he was showing all this stuff, and he was showing it in the playground. He didn't have to go to great lengths. I think the great length stuff is fantastic as well, but it's what Nick does is show you how to demonstrate the bleeding obvious in small scale, as well as just common sense. Carry on, Adam.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, John. He's amazing at doing that, making it so simple.
Has everyone died?
I
I'm
was
bloody
actually
muted again, aren't I? I'm
muted,
thinking.
right?
I'm muted, swearing at the screen. Oh,
No,
fuck's sake, where is everyone?
no, I was saying I think there's a number of points in that for me. And there's one other point that came out of a guy that's got engaged with Nathan and Riley and Ranty with regards to some of the photo analysis. And that relates to Nick's stuff with regards to the horizon photographs and what impact within a photograph, something that is in the distance, which is actually physically situated in the distance behind the horizon, how perspective plays out with regards to its rendering. Not something I have an answer for, but certainly really interesting concept. This guy called Caps Lock. I don't know, sounded German. I don't know if any of the guys are in chat that might be able to fill in, but he's interesting concept with regards to where the horizon forms and what happens to objects that are actually past that point, but above the point of the horizon and how they then render. Zach's probably more informed than anyone.
I don't know about anyone, but yeah, it's starting to lightning out here. It's pretty cool. I've never seen lightning this late in December. But yeah, there's definitely a mathematical formula that you can, punch into, and it'll tell you at least the minimum that'll be cut off of things to make it look like it's going over some curve, when really it's just the limitation of your lens. I mean, so many people have demonstrated this now. Just taking their camera phones with a nice teeny tiny aperture, going to Walmart or any of these places, and just putting your phone real close to the ground and watching people's feet disappear.
That's it, Zach.
That
It's so simple, isn't it? And
is simple, yeah.
that should be enough for anyone who isn't completely bogged down with brainwashing.
Yeah, I mean, it's all you have to do is try it. Come on, Bubba, let's go.
Hashtag
Yeah.
test it.
Yeah, just test it. Just try it for yourself. It's so simple.
That's one of the playlists on my YouTube channel. Test it playlist and gyroscopes playlist. As we were talking about playlists earlier.
I just have my perspective playlist. Why we see what we see. And all my videos and all my little live streams that I did, all about perspective.
Here we are blowing smoke up Nick's ass. You have to be the number one person for doing this, for making shit obvious on a small scale. I mean, you are the one that...
Credit. I borrow a lot of stuff from other people. Chris Van Matre, I borrowed Nick, actually. I have a video dedicated to him for showing why sunspot rotations happen. Because he showed me how. And all I had to do was test it, Well,
sometimes we forget whose company we're in and why they're here. And you have to go down, in my book at least, as one of the best demonstrators of setting suns. I mean, that's the
exactly.
freaking...
His warehouse videos were brilliant.
Yeah, here I am talking about if Earth is flat, then why does the sun set? Go look at Zach's videos. You'll know exactly why. The sun sets on a dead flat factory floor. I thought that was awesome. Awesome stuff.
Well, thank you. Yeah, just doing my part. I had the floor there, I had the camera and the flashlight.
I think we need an IRM.
Travis did the plain truth. He actually made the sunset.
Right.
at a Walmart.
You did it years ago. I mean, you know, it's not a cock sizing competition that I'm trying to make it into, but I'm just saying you really did nail it a long time ago. I think, talking of playlists, we should probably put together the IRM playlist of all the things that we've done, you know, including Josh's interviews and Walt with your dropping the hammer and all the other videos that you've put out, and Adam with the moon temperature tests and all the other stuff that you'd done, and Zach with his paint cans disappearing across
I don't
the
think any of us
factory
would be
floor.
sitting here if we hadn't actually gone out and tested it, hashtag tested, ourselves. I mean, that's it. I would never have believed a YouTube video or anybody's discussion. I had to do things for myself. That's just, I think that's why we're all sitting here, you know, not just us, the viewers, the listeners.
It got to that point, didn't it, where you were just like, I'm a baller. I'm going to listen to some flat earth stuff. Holy crap, that sounds like it makes an awful lot of sense. Now I don't bloody know. I'm going to have to test it. I mean, it's just logic, isn't it?
That would be a logical thing. I was talking about that this morning, that damn dagnabbit logic that I keep putting on stuff that people just don't work the same. I don't know why they don't see things my way sometimes.
Well, when you have conflicting views and you don't know who to trust or who to believe, or you got to test it, and it's bloody easy to test too.
Yeah, John, you challenged me. We were talking about years ago. When was the moonlight test? But
Cool,
I remember you
2
saying
years ago.
I was in Oregon, so it was either a year ago or 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, or whatever. So I know that. Was it the first trip? It
was in the past. It was in the past.
I think it was the first trip.
I'll tell you when it was. It was a year ago, last summer. So the summer of 2017, when I took the equipment out there. So it would have been sort of March, April time, April, May time, I think, when we did it, of 2017.
Well, both years I went to Oregon in June for my mom's birthday.
Yeah. So June would have been when I'd have been finishing up. But the point I was going to make there was, John had moaned at me for ages, and I remember saying on air,
me moaning at you.
I know that.
Never.
Maybe John had been advising me in a forceful way.
I had been wanting you to do a good one too, because of my little silly one I did with the laser gun and the piece of paper. It just, had too many. I was just stunned that I had the gun in my hand, so I ran outside and did a real impromptu throw together thing. But yours is light years beyond impromptu, my friend.
You're right, Adam. I do moan at you. We're like an old married couple.
It's a pleasure, friend. It's like your wife. I would hate the day to walk into the house and not get told off for.
No, I'm nothing like your wife, mate. Believe me.
Oh, I know that. I can tell you that now. I'll confirm it when I give you a cuddle in Italy. But
sorry,
I did have a point. I forgot.
You did,
So no, I've got it. So yeah, so you'd been suggesting to me for a while to do it myself. I would say, well, I'm happy. I've seen enough stuff that really does raise the question. But actually, since then, you see a lot of rebuttals and stuff, and it's actually going and bothering to do what I did over those, hours and hours and hours, over nights and nights, not to mention the hours setting up the equipment to make sure it worked under non-moonlighty conditions, you know what I mean, that it was okay. And it's stuff like that, John, that no matter what anybody throws at me as a rebuttal, I know I've been there and I've tested it live. I've watched those thermometers do that shit and go, bloody hell. Do you know what I mean? I put them back in the tent and watched them realign. I swapped them over and watched them swap temperatures. Put one in a glass jar and stayed up for so long, moving that bloody hostess trolley around my garden to make sure it was all exposed to the sunlight and moonlight, sorry, throughout. Oh, mate, a huge period. So the one in the glass jar that was in a greenhouse, and when that one got to cooler than the one in the shade, yeah, that's the one that just did me. Because that, when we talk about isolating variables in an experiment, you know, you can have all sorts of shit where, oh, X, Y, you know, there's this, that, and the other, even though those probes were only 6 to 12 inches apart, one in shade, one not. And they were specific sensors, not any critique with regards to infrared spread analysis. When, like I said, that one that totally isolated it, and actually that one went colder inside a little, it was a taxidermy dome, weren't it? I broke it, man. Broke me that. Upset me that. That was the one that really did just say, I don't care what kind of non-proven waffle you give at me. I know for a fact I've tested it, and that can't happen.
Well, at least if you've done the test yourself, then I'll talk to you. But most of the armchair warriors are just spouting what they've read on MetaJunk or some other nonsense website. But yeah, with the moonlight test, I mean, you went to the absolute extremes and got certified thermometers and built whole setups for them to be in, so there could be variables in variable, what are they, PVs and BVs or something. But anyway, I mean, the way I came at that was just buying 4 of those temperature gauges, cheap ones on eBay, and putting them out 2 at a time, 2 on the left, 2 on the right, you know, 1 in shade, 1 out of shade, and swapping them over halfway through exactly as you did, and showed exactly the same results. But I did it, I've now done it 5 times with exactly the same results. So I didn't go to the extremes that you went to, but through repetition, I don't know. You know, I mean, I can't say it any other way. When it's in the moonlight, it's colder than when it's not. It's just that simple.
I'd say one other thing on that, and I'm going to have to shoot for a second. There was one result that blew me away, and that was, as Walt was saying, it was probably towards the latter end of results, and the moon was high in the sky 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and the sun was blocked, so I weren't in any, there was no direct sunlight at all. It was blocked by my house, and I'd set everything up again so that it was, the probes were exposed, and I'm thinking, well, this won't make out. And the variance in temperature that I got was the biggest I got in daylight in June time. It must have been, well, I suppose, but and that one was just really.
Sorry, explain that slightly. What? So you had where were the temperature gauges?
With all the readings that I've taken, the hundreds and hundreds of readings that I've taken, often you look at the differential. There's 0.8 of a degree, 0.9, and so on and so forth. And but this was like, I'm sure it was like 1.4 degrees difference. Like I said, wasn't night time. This was during the day, no direct sunlight. The sun was, you know, like I said, blocked. But there was direct line of sight to the moon.
I've got you.
And the biggest differential I got was that day at that time. Like I say, I'm sure it's 1.4 I got for that.
It's irrelevant. It's just the fact that there was a differential is, you know, the point is that the moon's light should by heliocentric model definition, be warm, no matter how warm it is, whether it's minuscule amounts, it should be warm. And what anyone can demonstrate or test for themselves, if they follow some sort of decent method, is that it's actually cold. So, how do you explain that? How does anyone explain that?
Good question.
We've gone
I don't think there
sideways
is an
again.
explanation for it, though. I don't think we have. I think we're perfectly on track.
Well, there's not. This was something I'd heard on some a debate show as well. People chatting about that, and there are some. I looked into it a little bit, and obviously, as you described, that the standard physics model, you'd assume that to be whatever degree it was, some level of additional thermal input generated by even lunar light. So, but I kind of looked at stuff, and I think it's called Doppler cooling. And so there are ways in which light can interact, and I think it's used in like computer cooling and stuff, real high tech stuff. And they fire a laser light at really cold stuff anyway, but they maintain it and super cool it by firing lasers at it, and these lasers are at frequencies that resonate with the molecules' resonant energy frequency, I think. And in doing that, it kind of cancels the waves out, and it slows the molecules down even more, making them less energetic, less thermal. So there is a way in which light itself can interact, and there are ways in which.
So how does moonlight make a razor blade dull?
No, it's sharp. Did it make it dull or
Yes, it does.
sharpen it?
Yes, it does. My dad
There's
said they used to do
pyramids in
that as a trick to their buddies in the army, put their razor blade on the windowsill at night, and it would dull their blade.
But you say also,
Good
Adam,
lads.
that you say that there is a way of this, that, and the other, but I've not tested it. You've not tested it. Is there a way that we can show that in reality, or do you need lasers and yada yada? I've
no,
heard
there's
Doppler
papers.
attached to absolutely everything lately. Doppler this and Doppler that. We can tell how fast satellites are going because of Doppler. No, you can't unless it's going away from you perpendicularly. There's, yeah, I'm hearing Doppler on absolutely everything. It needs more investigation.
There's a second type of cooling that's been purported, which is to do with absorption of light. I looked into this because it kind of disproves a lot of even the Aries, some of the Aries disk experiments and the bending of light, because it's to do with the way light interacts with anything, how it's then repropagated afterwards. And there was certain stuff with regards to certain frequencies of light which are emitted by crystalline structures. So when a crystalline structure takes in so much energy, it stores the energy within and the light within the lattice. And then there comes a tipping point where re-emission occurs. And if you was to postulate that being the glow of the moon, when this light then comes back in, it's deficient at certain energy levels. So when it then hits and is able to fully refract out of it, during the full refraction process, it actually takes energy away from the thing it refracts through, and becomes back a full powered light beam again. And obviously the theory of that is that that's why moonlight is cooling. But the crystalline lattice stuff has been demonstrated, whether the moon has that cause, but That's another kind of backed up by scientific papers stuff, theoretical postulation, ways in which moonlight could work.
Well, I'll tell you what. The point is that moonlight can be demonstrably shown to be colder than moonshade. Whether it is a reflection of the sun's light, which, in all fairness, it should be, even if we are claiming, the sun and moon are small and local, rotating around a flat plane, there should be some sort of interaction between the sun's light and the moon, because there's nothing obstructing them in between. Maybe where we're getting hung up is the biblical explanation, and he made two luminaries, one to light the night, one to light the day. But that's open for discussion as to the sun reflecting off the moon. There's still two luminaries. There's still two lights. If you had a lamp and a mirror at a far end of a room, and you look down the room, you would still you would see two luminaries. You'd see two lights. But so yeah, there could be explanations as to why the moon's light is cold. But I think the ultimate point that I was getting at, not saying that it's not a reflection, just saying that if you can be bothered to go out and test it, you will no doubt find that the moon's light is cold compared to the moon's shadow, although there are numerous people, or some people out there, that have tested the other way. Just trying to be fair here. I sent you all to sleep, obviously.
Yeah, I'm just over here.
Not at all.
You got me hashtag testing it again.
Right?
I'll show you what I'm playing with. Let me see. It feels good to play around again.
What, you're doing something on camera now, eh? Cool. Hold on.
Just playing with that hemispherical. No, I'm good. Just mess around. I got a new lens here. It's pretty wild.
What sort of lens is that, then? And what are you hovering it over? It's like a giant's fingerprint.
Oh, that's just something I made to play around with.
How do you make that?
It's just a bunch of little tiny dots and a
How do you make the circles, though?
compass.
Hmm.
Yeah,
You're full of
Something to play around
surprises,
with.
Zach.
That's how you get your southern hemisphere right there. See it?
Right, reversed.
Yeah, so if the ether, just the ether, was shaped like this, you have a pocket of heat coming up from outside the middle. And then eventually, the further away you get, the colder it gets. And when gases get colder, they get heavier, right? So they'd start, like, as they get away, they start falling more and more to the ground until you get a shape somewhat like that.
Not
Just-
according
yeah.
to Dr. John D, though, apparently. About air and density and weight. Sorry, mate, carry on.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Just playing. Back to playing around again. I'm enjoying it. From the first time I picked this bad boy up, it's a wild one. This came out of a what was it? A television. And it's got this neat little lens right here. Hank's getting scared. So yeah, I'm gonna see what I can do. I got a bunch more stuff to play with too.
We were going to talk about Dr. John D, weren't we, Adam?
I was just gonna say one thing about those, because I've seen those hemisphere prisms before, and
You're
the
munching
images.
again, aren't you?
Yeah, I was cheeky bit of chocolate again.
You're like Poe, bloody panda.
Shut up, put me off again. They've been around for a while, and people look through them, as Zach's showing there. And my only criticism of it is that it appears, if you look at the image that we're looking at and visualizing, is generated by looking downward through the top of the dome. So everything's back to front. So the way you want to kind of look at it, surely, is to turn that thing the other way around, Zach. So that the flat end is, because that's your personal dome. You kind of want to be on the face of the glass, don't you, in a way? But if you're going to use that to kind of distort what the atmosphere would do to something, that would make more sense to me.
Yeah, I think we want to be standing right in the middle of this,
Yeah.
flipped over this way, but facing up and looking out towards us this way. That's why this is the star field right here, and I have it upside down as like we're on the ground.
But the dome model is bullshit, says Rufus.
Yeah,
Well, it's not a model, Rufus.
It's just an idea.
I'm not talking about models. I'm talking about contextualizing, or trying to kind of understand how, and this isn't about a physical dome. This is about your personal dome of viewing. This is not about some.
This I believe is about the, at least me, I believe this is about the shape of the ether. Your visual dome creates the hemispherical, sphere, the like the astronomical sphere around us, how we see stars set and things like that. I think that's our visual. This, because we don't see a southern star rotation, from our point of view up here in the north. We see something different. So this has to be caused by something different, the actual southern star rotation in this lens. If that's what's actually causing the southern rotation, I think that would have to be the shape of the ether. And then we would only see like a small portion of what goes on inside of here.
Well, Zach, would you say that your visual dome is different, separate to the atmospheric dome?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean,
100%.
it is, obviously, isn't it? I mean, everyone's visual dome is the limit of their vision. And it would clearly be a dome because it will be equidistant all the way around, surely. Whereas what we're talking about here is completely different. So you can't mix the two. Would I be right?
Absolutely. That's how I see it. I mean, if this were the cause right here, of your visual limit, then we would even see the southern hemisphere rotation from real far north. We'd see the north rotation there, and then just looking right out, you would still see a rotation, and we don't see that.
That's a good point. I stand corrected. That makes sense.
But I'm thinking this is the shape of just the ether, just wherever the heat's coming from. I believe this is the shape, at least on the bottom half of the ether. I think it's shaped like that.
And again, this shape would make sense, wouldn't it, Zach?
Yeah.
Because it's equidistant in all areas I mean, it's a logical, natural shape. Freak.
Yeah. So maybe, I don't know. Like I said, what's going on in the sky, I have no clue. I don't pretend to, but I got a couple ideas.
What's going on in the sky is like quite unimportant to me in terms of what we need to prove what's going on down here. To me, anyway.
Yeah, same here.
I mean, the
But
sky is, I mean, it fascinates me, but at the
Yes,
moment,
yeah.
it's off limits, as is north latitude so and so, south latitude so and so, and about what 130, 40,000 feet above us. We can't go there yet. We need to work out what is a lie and what's being told to us as being a lie down here on Earth first, and then we can drop the barriers like the Antarctic Treaty or the Arctic Treaty and the barriers above us and explore this sort of crap. But we've got to deal with what's down here first before we bother with speculating about what's going on above us.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to put it a different way, but it's the same point. I think, John, is we were talking about test it stuff and test it, not experiments. That's a step down, and this is kind of another step. This is kind of like intellectual conjecture for me. What Zach's doing there, and it's fun, but in terms of, like you say, being in any way testable, provable, or it isn't, but it does help keep you sane.
That is the point.
Imagine
That
it
is the
stuff,
point.
yeah.
It's fun. It's a break from the mundane of the sort of Dr. John Dee experimentation, the Ranties, Rileys. That's the thing. It is fun to speculate, but if we have a mission, then it surely has to be to sort out what is down here on the ground in reality, and then that will topple all the space agencies and the governments and all the rubbish that's been lying to us so far, and we can actually channel that 52 million a day or whatever that NASA plums up. We could actually channel that to finding out the answers to these questions, and this is, to me, this is a hurdle that needs to be knocked over before we really make any more progress. It has to be shown beyond a shadow of a doubt, beyond your Wolfie Slies and all the other paid trolls out there that are triggering the cognitive dissonance with their followers, that something has to be shown that is beyond a shadow of doubt. I mean, to me, that's the gyroscope without doubt, but obviously this needs to be hit on numerous attack points to hammer this stuff home. When this stuff, and I think it is happening. I mean, NASA, as far as I can tell, is falling. I'd like to put a shout out at this point to Wakey Wakey and his series on ESA or whatever, the European Space Agency, laughing my ass off. And his series on that, I think that's a great series. It's 12 episodes now. Props to you, Wakey Wakey, for that lot. Really good. But that's the sort of thing, and I think I see it happening. But it has to. I couldn't give a crap about what's going on.
I'm going to turn into John Savage now, and just ask you to explain what you were on about with Wakey Wakey, because I know Wakey Wakey, obviously, but
If you
don't
go to
know what.
Wakey Wakey's channel, and I can never remember how to spell it. Well, can you remember his name?
Oh,
He has a playlist called ESA Hoax, I think it's called, and there's 12 videos in it so far, I think, and it's just him doing the same as Jaren, taking apart the European Space Agency and Peaky Boy, as he calls him, which is Tim Peake.
yeah, I like that. I like that one. I do remember that one, old Peaky Boy.
That whole, yeah, I think it's just a really good. Talking about playlists again, I think maybe we should have playlists in the title of tonight's show, because it's come up again and again. But talking about playlists, yeah, go to Wakey Wakey. How has anyone looked it up? Do we know how to spell it?
I believe it's WAKI.
WAKY or
I.
I Wakey. Okay. Well, I'll make it my mission to actually put that in the chat and in the description. But yeah, no, it's just a really good series.
WAYKAWAYKI.
One more time.
Really, that's right, headbender. WAYKIWAYKI.
Which is why I can't remember how the hell to spell it at all. But yeah, no, spot on. I'll stick a link to that in chat, and
It's almost as bad as my spelling of my name.
yeah. Although I got yours straight away, good times for all. This one, I could do it 1,000 times and I wouldn't be able to get it right. It's like spelling necessary or something, although I know that one. Anyway.
We had a point of what we were going to do earlier.
We did, yeah. I think I had one drag too many.
It's going to get messy these 3 weeks, isn't it, Savage?
It is, isn't it? It's going to get horrible, mate. It's going to get horrible. Now I've got to try and post it in Skype.
Are you going to be like this
and
mad drunk Christmas Day wandering around on your own?
No, I'm going to be sober Christmas Day. In fact, probably for the next 2 weeks. So should be interesting.
Get ready for a fight then, innit? You're going to be...
Yeah, it could be interesting. I'm going to take it. Sorry.
Just laughing. Oh, God. That poor dog.
Don't concentrate on me. I'm trying to multitask at the moment. Done it in there. Okay, so I'll put it in. Come on, Phil. Where's Phil?
You know what, Zach? Right, it's 1:15 here now, so
You can never tell.
yeah, but we've overshot to do Zach's presentation. I think people need to wait till the new year now.
Yeah.
I mean, March.
It'll always be there.
I can't name you the amount of intros you could have taken to get that going, but
I think we've killed it. I think Christmas
we
break.
have to, yeah. Stone dead. What's the next topic?
But you try and blame me. That was you. You rambled off into moonlight.
Beat silence.
Look down at the dog tomorrow afternoon when you're on playback and go, Meakin was right.
Okay, I'll let you know.
Meakin was right.
Dog's
I was
fast.
thinking of having that on my gravestone, Zach, but my wife said it's too egotistical.
I'm not going to have a gravestone. Hopefully, if I have my way, I'm going to stumble off into the woods somewhere and be like, just lay down and be like, all right, you did it. Thanks.
I've already got a wheelie bin.
There you go.
I don't.
That's fine, but husband number 2 is on the left.
That's it. It's a body. There's nothing else to it. Once the soul's gone, there's no point, or whatever the hell you want to call it.
Just like the worms.
Stick me in the wheelie bin.
I always remember Grandma when we were young taking me. It was to the TSB bank to sort out her funeral. She took me, and saying to me, "There's enough money in there. Stick me in a bin bag. That's more than enough. Get me done." Do you know what I mean? And I said about a gravestone, and genuinely, it's not for me, is it? It's for the weeping masses after I've gone that I was thinking of a monument. Do you know what I mean? It's and I think that's important for everybody, for somewhere to go. Whether there's a name plaque there or whether there's like I say, a gravestone, a headstone, I still think it's nice to have somewhere to go for someone. Like when I went to Kay's funeral, you know what I mean? I'll always think of her there at that place, and you know what I mean? Whether I don't know, I still think a little mark somewhere, even if it's a stick in the ground that only lasts till those that did remember you. I think it's still nice to have a bit of mark ground.
Just give him a postcode.
I'd love to get that from you.
You're worrying me now, you stalker.
I will stalk you. I've got some high quality watches, boys. By the way, I mean, I need postcodes all right. God knows I'm going to get one to Zach. I need to know where he's going to be via pigeon post in 6 months' time.
Send it to me.
I would if I could know where. Leave it on some service station on the M6.
I'm not a dogger. I certainly don't get to the M6 ever, if I can help it.
A dead drop underneath a park bench.
Yeah, 6 months time. I have no clue, Adam. Come on.
That's what I mean. No, I've got it. If you're there till just after Christmas, how long are you there for, Zach? Now, with this welding and teaching with the gardening and stuff. How long are you planning?
At least till June, at least.
Oh, it's all good, mate. Even Royal Mail get it there by then.
Yeah, because I'd like to get a good harvest in. We'll be able to harvest. I'll probably get 2 harvests this year.
Are they natural sunlight harvests in terms of?
Yeah, I could start one and then start another one probably a month or maybe even a month and a half later because they have a very long growing season. And that way you're not having to can everything all at once.
Now, you see, if you were God, you could turn the sun off and on for 12 hours when you wanted them to go into bloom, couldn't you? But
we'd want them to go to 18 hours, yeah.
Or you could just do it on a really small scale and prove that it's possible. Sorry, John.
Right, shut up, you boring flat earthers. Like the mud flood is back in the house again. And you talk about turning the sun off. Now, in the year of 1812 or 1800 and frozen to death, the sun was turned off and there was no summers for 3 years.
How do you know?
It's attributed, well, historical documents that I placed all truth in because they're given to me by the state, Mr. Savage. But in that period,
so you don't know.
No, well, it's attributed to silly things like volcano, which not quite as powerful as Krakatoa. But apparently this
That
caused...
went off, did it?
Well, he got a bag on.
No, I was just wondering how you know.
I don't know nothing. I admit that before.
Okay, carry on.
That's the necessary antecedent to me speaking.
What does
An admission of
have
me
I
knowing
got a
nothing.
bag on mean?
I said, you were like a baller. I didn't even got my sentence out, and you got an opposition into it.
Well, no, you were like a baller. You're telling me what happened 120 years ago, and it's like, how do you know?
I wasn't
Sorry,
telling you that.
carry
I was
on.
saying this is what we're told.
Right, got you.
You fucker. You have to wait now. But it's an interesting point that we lost direct sunlight, and most people are aware of actually something you are taught in the mainstream, which is the Krakatoa myth and how it caused blocking out of sunlight in the Western Hemisphere and so on and so forth. The strange thing about, or as with a lot of the paradigm when you analyze it and the bullshit they give you, this 3 years of no real summer, which is attributed to Southern Asian earthquakes, didn't seem to have any impact on the Southern Hemisphere in their model. The ironic seemed to block out, cause famine. And I think in America, I don't know, Walt, Josh, Zach, do you know? Have you heard of 1800 and frozen to death?
No, this is news to me. Right, I'm aware of.
See, 1812, that's a battle. That was a great battle over here. Was that the French? Maybe. Was that the French?
They wrote an overture about it.
No. But yeah.
Yeah, so that's what we're taught about that time in our history books, you know.
I could do it on my legs too.
I think your guys' history is a lot easier to see if you look at a lot of Martin's work the past week or so. As I've said, it's very easy with European history to conjure up all sorts of apologetics for these magnificent structures that we're not able to build today, and to give them much later datings than they possibly would have. And if you look at the vast destructions of some of the amazing buildings in North America, some of the buildings in South America, particularly Mexico, which are just as European and Spanish looking, but of such grandeur. And what Martin's been showing is analysing stone production in North America to build these great buildings prior to the dates. And he's showing 20, 30, 40-year gaps between the earliest claimed date of these buildings being built and the production of the stone being available to make them. I think that shows, again, you know, these buildings were there, Europe, America, and worldwide. They were there, as John said earlier, for whatever reason, whether it's Noah's flood, or as some people postulate, or secondary events that have caused this wiping out of quite magnificent cities and architecture, which has left a place to be salvaged. It's intriguing, but I think America's stuff and the analysis over there is really the key, because I do think it's the place where it's a lot harder to hide that kind of architecture like I say, it's hard to get a building of great grandeur like you would the Waldorf Astoria when they suddenly pop up in a Midwest town in the middle of nowhere, and then in the 1920s they knock them down for no apparent reason because they want to build a parking lot or whatever, or and I mean the greatest clues are in the buildings that you guys have strangely gotten rid of or strangely had fires in, because there seems to have been a lot of fires in America from 1900 onwards.
Right up through the present, I would argue.
I'm done mud flooding. Sorry, told you it's like flat earther in the pub. Mud flood now.
Something about being tired just makes bad jokes come right to my brain.
Do it.
You're
Nope.
tired, Josh.
I'm not gonna do it. Wouldn't be prudent. Not at this juncture.
So, would I be right in saying, Adam, that the history of this mud flood stuff, which I'd like to point out I am into and fully on board with, say fully on board with, I don't fully understand it at the moment, but it's coming from old sketches and photographs mainly.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, like, I think anybody that tries to paint a paradigm of history is being foolish. I think certainly what Martin's put a lot of effort into is to demonstrate, as with, it's a bit like flat Earth, isn't it? You can't say the Earth's flat, can you? You can say it's not a ball, okay? And it's a bit like that. You can't say this is the history, but you can show stuff to demonstrate that that's clearly not the history.
I can't say it's not flat because my gyroscope says it is. I hear this a lot, though. Quite a lot. You can't say the Earth's flat. I think you can. I don't see any reason why you can't say the Earth's flat and stationary, because there's absolutely no proof that it's otherwise.
Because we have to break people out of this paradigm of scientific thinking and confusing it with scientism. People are going to want to argue because they're thinking in science class that they learned the Earth is a ball, so they know that science proves that the Earth is a ball, so they're thinking in scientific terms. So they're going to say, well, of course, science says we can prove scientifically the Earth is a ball. But you got to break them out of that paradigm, because we can't prove scientifically the Earth is a ball. We can't prove scientifically the Earth is flat. But the Earth could be flat.
But you can certainly demonstrate, I would say, beyond reasonable doubt or reasonable alternative hypothesis or alternative explanation that it is flat and stationary. You may not be able to say it scientifically because we don't have, and the reason for that is because we don't have our sort of null hypothesis, we don't have a full-size flat Earth and a full-size spinning globe Earth to be able to say and fall into their parameters of scientific. Yeah, does that make sense?
It does, and I steal it from Nathan Oakley that he'll tell you that it's obviously and observably flat, which I think is absolutely true. We observe it as flat.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, my heckles go up when I hear people saying you can't prove that it's flat, or you can't say that it's flat. You can't this, that, and the other that it's flat. John Le Bon does the same thing. They have absolutely no proof that it's flat and stationary. Well, there's absolutely shitloads of proof. I mean, Airy's failure for a start, gyroscopes. There's so much evidence in favor of stationary flat Earth without us being able to morph ourselves into gods and the size of giants to be able to, like I said earlier, manipulate with a rockery the camera and jump from the peak of this mountain to the peak of this mountain to be able to compare the distances and the heights and the stuff, like Phuket World has displayed in ad infinitum.
I think there's. I'll have to say this, otherwise I'll get a slap off quantum eraser. I think we're at the point again of differentiating between scientific evidence and logic and reasoning based on everything we know scientifically. So
well, no, that's why I deliberately stayed away from the word scientific.
Yeah.
I was saying evidence and proof, and I didn't say scientific for a reason, obviously.
But we're not talking about a court of law, are we, John? We're not looking for proof and evidence in terms of a court of law.
No, not in terms of
kind of evidence and a specific kind of proof, though. Yes.
Yeah, not. We're not looking for lawful evidence or whatever. What I'm saying is that we can prove it.
Hold on. Well, if not the lawful sort of evidence and proof, what kind of evidence and proof then?
Logic and reason, and is that what you mean?
Well, no, I'm
because,
just wondering.
I mean, there's lawful.
I think I've heard it, even Nathan sort of break down this argument, is that what you're still talking about, you're still referring to what is they're going to refer to as the scientific field. You're still looking for scientific proof and scientific evidence as demonstrated through your scientific method.
Well, there's a very specific definition of scientific proof and scientific experiment, and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about adhering to.
No, science is cause and effect, isn't it? And this isn't cause and effect relationships. We're trying to the best of our understanding to rule out certain things. So you can't cause and effect the shape of the Earth. The shape of the Earth is a thing. It just is. It doesn't have a cause and effect, and or it does. But we would have to be the creator to be able to scientifically evaluate the cause and effect of the shape of the Earth. Because what cause and effect it is the creator.
But would you agree that you could test it? You could test whether you are
right. So this is the point, and this is what I was saying. We can apply tests that do certain things. What the test that doesn't do is show the shape of the Earth. What the test does is disprove certain shapes. Okay, so, and this is when, it's funny, isn't it, Synergy? This is how us guys with Rob, remember Rob from Australia, with Rob started first talking, us guys saying,
I don't remember.
No, Larry bloke, bad sense of humour.
You get it. Carry on. Sorry.
Good guy. God, I miss it. And when we were first chatting, I always said to you, I can't prove the shape of the Earth. What I can kind of demonstrate is that it's not this shape. It's not this shape. It's not this shape. And what is demonstrable with the data that and tests that we have and that we can all do is it's not a ball of circumference 40,000 kilometers. That's demonstrable.
And the bit about Nathan saying it's observably and obviously flat and stationary.
Yeah,
that's not scientific, but that's just bloody obvious.
And observably, yeah,
it's common sense.
But as I said to you there, it could be a ball the size of the sun, as they purport in their heliocentric model. And if it was, the tests that we've done so far wouldn't be able to disprove that. But what we can disprove Well,
I disagree on the fundamental grounds that if it was a ball of any size, then the water would run down the sides and fall off the bottom,
okay.
because that cannot be shown in reality to happen. No matter what size the ball, you can't show water clinging to the outside
But
of a ball.
we could be in a big crater on that ball. So
How-
there is all
hold on.
sorts of apologetics. The point I'm trying to make is there's the data and the tests that we've done are applicable to a certain level, and only so far. But what's important about them is that they prove that we are not on a ball of 40,000 circumference. That's clearly and demonstrably
Yeah.
demonstrated. And as
So
Nathan
when you
says,
say in a crater,
well, think
you
about
mean we could be in a flat crater
Oh,
on
no,
a massive ball?
no, I'm
yeah?
sounding like Alwyn now. 'Cause
No,
that
no,
was
no.
just
This
that
is a
was
legitimate question.
okay.
So when you say a crater, I'm assuming you're saying we could be on a flat plane on a massive ball, like a football, and
Well,
we're one of the segments, yeah?
before I obviously go into this complete nonsense.
It's not a
Okay.
trap or anything.
No,
I'm
no,
just,
no.
I mean,
I
that
would just
sounds
say that
reasonable to me
it would
at the
would
moment.
completely negate all laws of gravity, because the level of size of the object that we're talking about would mean, you know, that every bit of mathematics doesn't exist even in their realm. But it's
I don't think it would negate gravity if gravity was, everything on the surface was attracted to the center.
but
If you had your flat plane, say your football hexagram or whatever it is, and that's
the point
flat,
is,
then
John,
I
right,
don't know.
is why
That
do
would
you?
work.
I'll give kudos to Nathan again. Here is the reality is everything is demonstrably and observably flat. So why, even when you're starting to evaluate stuff using scientific principles, shall we say, and ways of, why would you bring in a level of conjecture that postulates that you're actually not on this flat thing, that actually you're on this round thing that's so infinitely big that it feels flat? It's just
Because
that,
it could be possible.
well, it's a complete misdirection, and I think it's probably one of the greatest achievements that they introduced in 1800 and Frozen to Death was this new concept of trying to make our efforts as fruitful as they can become be completely in the wrong direction, and
Well,
and that
this is
goes
where
with so
I
many
see.
things, from just not just what we're talking about here in terms, but the way they've redirected the use of even simple things like electricity.
Well, this is where I see that if we transport ourselves back to 1800 and freezing them to death, or whatever you're talking about, it, the religious and the Bible side of things comes into this, and it literally, as the way I see it anyway, is that it literally became a quest to negate every single thing that was in the Bible. I mean, we've all seen Hubble's quote about the intolerable, whatever it was. I think, as you know, I don't think any of us are religious or followers of the Bible meticulously or whatever, but I think what we probably underestimate is the influence the Bible has had, and the Quran and all the others have had, on this outlook, and why everything we're told is literally arse about face compared to the Bible. So the
Well,
sun.
the Bible's
doesn't move. The Earth is a tiny, weeny little ball, and it spins. And everything, as far as I can see, about the heliocentric model contradicts what has been said in the Bible. And for anyone out there who's thinking, oh crap, this guy's on about the Bible and believes the Bible, the rest, I'm not. I'm not religious. I'm not into the Bible. The Bible doesn't even enter into flat Earth. But this subject can't be ignored. And 200 years ago, this was a way bigger subject than it is now. Agreed or not?
I would think that mud flood really undermines the Bible. You start to look, like I say, into the concept of multiple resets, not just the 1800s, but maybe one in 1600s, etc.
Can you drill down into that though? Just that sentence, mud flood contradicts the Bible. In what
Well,
sense?
I'm gonna, if you let me. So, with that kind of concept that we can have multiple resets, as I said earlier, there's quite clear understanding that there are Bibles predating this sort of date of the 1800s. We can go back to Gutenberg's and stuff like that. So we can go back a good amount of years. The standard, we can go back a good 500 to 600 years within standard chronology, but that still places us within flamenco's kind of timescales of altar chronology, and not what's been suggested in Mudflood, which is a more accelerated term. But if you look at the Bible as that kind of document, which is pre-reset, so it's a very powerful document in that it's always there, whether it's there after reset number 1 and reset number 2 from the 1500s, and it kind of maintains, and I think that kind of makes sense. It lends to the level of planning that the paradigm in which we're in has, but I think more importantly, it also lends, and if you start to look into a lot of the Tartarian stuff and also flamenco stuff, a lot of the Bible stories, particularly the chronologies within Kings and some of the other biblical texts, have amazing similarities to some European and particularly Russian and Prussian history. And it's these kind of linked synchronous histories where not necessarily the storyline around them, but the rain lengths and their place in history is starting to have a match. If you kind of stick all that together with regards to critiquing the Bible, there's stuff that you'll see coming out at the moment that will start to suggest, and I'll leave it here as a premise because I don't want to go any further, but it's quite interesting where it's being taken to. But if what we would call the race of the Jews, which is ascribed to the tribe of Judah right now, is possibly within history, this tribe is a rewriting of a lot of European history, and they are one of the 12 tribes of Tartaria, and it's this renegade tribe that is responsible for domination of all the other tribes.
Interesting. Very interesting.
The big blowout here is that whereas, and this is not anti-Semitic, this is just straightforward, statements of critique. Whereas what would be ascribed Jews, as we would call this sect of people today, and the big point of this is there is the point that the Tartarian society integrated Jews, Christians, Muslims, and all their symbology existed in a society pre the existence of those three religions. That's quite important. Fomenko mentions the possibility of Christianity existing well before Judaism. And that's borne out by in a lot of the Egyptian temples and the way they're laid out and stuff. But
you've read Fomenko, haven't you? Where does he say history starts?
well, let me. There's one last bit I'll finish, and then I'll come to that. And the important point about what appears to be coming out in YouTube at the moment, with regards to, and I think it's a lot of Russian studying, which is related to Fomenko, is these tribes, and we're all probably familiar with the 12 tribes of Israel, but this whole narrative, which is written into the Bible, is actually comes from the real history we have, which is the 12 tribes of Tartaria, the true Israel, the true state of the whole world where we all coexisted, not with different creeds in different areas, because there's proof that I'll stop rambling, but this Tartarian 12 tribes is the true origin of the 12 tribes of Israel, which is then portrayed in this narrative, which is then portrayed as Judaic history, which then leads on to Christian history, etc., etc. But the reality is that what's coming out of this Tartarian history is that the tribe of Judah isn't of origin from Ben Judah, but it's actually from the tribe of Judas. And that's where the allegory of the betrayal of Judas comes from.
Interesting. You're not waffling, by the way. It's just good stuff.
I had a propensity to go too sideways there with probably too much detail, is what I was meaning. Because there is a lot of detail that backs up those statements, and it does require, sadly, a lot of reading, and a lot of interpretation and supposition, I suppose. But it's like with all history, all you can do.
So when is Mr. Meakin's book coming out then? You got any plans? Yeah, right.
I've only got one book. I've only got one thing planned, mate. And if I ever get the reason to publish it, it'd be fantastic. For another day.
Interesting.
That's what I'd do. You know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
See, it's like. See, I am like the flat earther in the pub now with mud flood.
You are.
Just kills it, doesn't it? You see, mud flood. But I think it places everything. I think it really does give us an understanding as to the bullshit of Christopher Columbus being scared of sailing off the edge. Why did they invent that paradigm? Why was that made up? For what purpose? Did they pretend that the other side of the Atlantic Ocean was somewhere we weren't even aware of? What horrors were going off in Europe, Africa at that time that enabled them to reset civilizations? How did they reset the civilization? How has that reset been portrayed, as we see with the what's the
plasma weaponry?
Well, with all the children, Walt, I forgot the bloody word. Oh, Michelle's looking into this bit particularly.
The orphan trains and stuff, right.
So if all of this is happening, Adam, how do we get out of it? What are the steps towards getting out of this?
Finally brings it back around to something I was going to address so long ago, but we got into mud flood and I was just listening enraptured here. Way earlier in chat, it was really going back and forth with the idea of, okay, we know this. We know the globe is bullshit. We know, we've seen it. And we've talked about it for, as we said earlier, going on 2 years here. let's do something. Let's do something and change it. And then somebody else in chat, and I can't get all the way back. There's been so much in there. I'm trying to find it, but I'll be lost digging through. Said, okay, so we're not really here to change this realm we're in. This realm is not for us to change. This realm is either a place for learning, which I don't buy that anymore. I think it's more a trick trapped recycling place that we got hung into myself, but that's just some of my own experiences. However, how the hell are we going to change this thing? That's really what it all comes down to.
Yep, totally.
I'll tell you how, mate.
Being aware of it
truth.
as they're doing it to us does us no good. How do we keep them from doing it to us this time around? How do we stop the reset? How do we fight back?
I don't think enough people know that, are aware of what's happening.
Whoa, how interested in Flat Earth? Yeah.
She knows that it's not a ball, and that's good enough for her. You know, she's not into
how
it like
interested has she been in the foundlings?
She's done active research. I don't know how much lately, because things have gotten hectic of late with Christmas, but definitely for her to spend the 3 or 4 days, I know she was doing it those days when I told you. Like I said, for her to be doing this, yeah, it's definitely got her. And tomorrow we'll be back in Lafayette, and I'll be looking around at more buildings and seeing more things. I'll try to take some pictures and videos and stuff this time.
It's all part of the same lie, okay? And the more all of us keep digging, and shout out to Martin, because look, Martin's digging has woken up somebody to the
Yes, he
truth
is.
that wasn't interested, that Flat Earth didn't wake up. Even though she's with a flat earther, you know, it didn't wake her up. But this is, and as more and more, as we dig more and more other truths will come out that resonate with other people, you know, that wake them up.
Maybe one day we'll get her on here talking about it. That was funny. I doubt it.
Was that
but
heard?
I will bug her.
Was that heard in the room?
No, she's in the other part of the house. But definitely I will let her know that we need to find out what she's been digging into. It all kept coming back to the same question. Yeah, here these children are. Why? Where'd they come from? Oh, the plague, maybe. But that's not explaining the time period that we're looking at here in Louisiana. You know, that's not it. Sorry, they don't match up. So still no explanation of where these little wee orphans came from.
So we're rolling up on 8 o'clock.
Wow, it has slipped right on by, hasn't it?
Yeah, we're rolling up on 2 hours.
On the soundtrack.
I wanted to touch on something just real quick, I guess, before we wrapped up. John, have you looked into diatomaceous earth?
Yes, I have. Yeah, got a load of it. I've got a massive sack in the loft. Can't remember why.
Do you take it?
I was muting not to find out why you had it, John.
I can't remember.
Never mind.
I think it was either something to do with dog fleas or grey hair.
I use it to keep the red mite down in the chicken coop.
That's another reason. Fleas around the house or something. I mean, I live right in the country,
right.
My
That's why
old
I know
dog
about it.
used to bring in. He used to get fleas when he was ill. I know the missus was taking diatomaceous earth, and it was.
So she did take it?
Oh yeah.
And how did she deal with it? Did it do okay, or did she react to it, or?
Well, it was like we were talking on Wednesday, wasn't it, about drinking mud in a glass? You know, it's
didn't
not,
make it too far.
It's not a nice thing. No, she did it for probably 6 months.
Oh hell, that's impressive.
Yeah, and it was to do with grey hairs or something. There were numerous other benefits to it, but yeah, it did what it said on the can, really.
Huh. Interesting.
Well, I've been looking into it for candida overgrowth.
Right.
For having battled various infections and the use of antibiotics and my propensity for sweet treats and my intake of sugars,
Right
seemed
there
like
with
combination to maybe think that this could be part of a solution to maybe start staving off some of these infections that I tend to keep getting. So I'm going to try some of this diatomaceous earth, and it seems to be got some pretty good reviews on fighting the candida. So we'll see how that works.
Nice.
Shot in the dark. I'm just
Yeah, go for it, man. I mean, it's all about testing, isn't it? There's no other way. I can sit here and go, nah, it didn't work for me. And it's like, and you go, well, fuck it then. But, you know, who's to say that what I got was diatomaceous earth? Who's to say that I did it properly? Who's to say that I stuck to the regime or wasn't doing something immediately, obviously, stupid that is, going to bring out what I'm trying to get rid of by taking diatomaceous earth? But no, absolutely. Yeah, just give it a go. It's dirt cheap.
it is dirt cheap.
I think it's is it silicon or something that it's really, really high in?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, it has some sort of benefit to your hair follicles as far as I know, so that could be interesting.
Supposed to be really good for your gut. I guess all those little diatoms is what they are. Ancient little sea creatures, but I guess their edges are super sharp and jagged. Of course, they're so small that they're not going to really hurt our digestive tract. But what they do is a hell of a job of scrubbing. So
that's a good description. Yeah, I think for anyone who's listening who doesn't know about diatomaceous earth, it's something from what we're told, it's like crushed crustaceans or something,
Right.
like little shell creatures and things like that. And these are so minute and sharp that I don't know, they cut into fleas' bodies or something along those lines.
Exactly.
It's something
any
bizarre.
insect issue you're dealing with, it basically will handle it.
different properties of diatomaceous earth, because those insects they thrive on moisture, and that diatomaceous earth, once it gets on them, sucks it out of them and just dries them up, kills them instantly. Cockroaches, bed bugs, all that stuff. Diatomaceous earth kills them.
That's right. But it's also apparently got some really good medicinal purposes as well that are worth looking into, because it is cheap, it is cheerful, it's a simple experiment.
Yep. And I've heard a very powerful combination is throwing in some activated charcoal in there. So I'm going to see how this goes and maybe work my way up to throwing in a couple pills of activated charcoal in there with it. We'll see. See what happens. Maybe nothing. All I did was eat some dirt.
I was just looking into that,
There-
Josh, and with regards to what you were saying, it's abrasiveness.
Right.
That intrigued me to why, as you quite rightly said, that how abrasive is it? It's certainly not going to be cutting into the gastric wall. So what kind of abrasiveness would be occurring? And obviously, Candida is a fungal organism. So they're a lot smaller. What I've managed to find out is it's suggesting that, as with all of these things, they kind of feed off nutrients, not directly. They're pulling nutrients from the environment they're in. And with all organisms, and fungus are very different. They protect themselves in very different ways. They're almost like an alien. You know, when you first learn in microbiology, fungal biology is very different to mammalian and bacterial, totally different. And what it's saying here is that in this micro-abrasive action appears to be cutting into the waxy protective layer, which causes a dehydration of fungal cells. So, first looks makes a bit of logical sense that if disrupts the protective environment which encases them and gives them a stable environment to breed and succeed, then obviously that diminishes their chances of survival, doesn't it? So gives your body a chance to fight them because they're not at their strongest.
I'll tell you what, having all these screens around me, I've been able to read chat. Right, so I didn't hear a word you just said there, Adam.
You got
As
lost in chat,
pertinent
right?
as it
It's so
freaking
easy to
was.
do, isn't it?
No, I did. I was listening, but also reading. But looking in there, Trouble About says, I brush my teeth with coconut oil now, straight from the jar. Good lad, good lad. Trying to add some, what is it, bicarb soda in there as well. That's good stuff. And essential oils. I can clarify that crushed up crustaceans, I've been told, help with all kinds of joint arthritis and cartilage regeneration. They're from Nemo289V. Nice one. Rufus. Yeah, I think we'll leave that one. I've overheard this. It's
John, before you go,
fossilized.
I'm freaking out here. Josh, am I tripping?
No, I'm reading chat because I've got like 8 screens in front of me.
I've not looked at chat. Well, I had it up earlier, but I've not looked at chat in an hour and a half.
I don't
I'll
care
tell you
about that.
what.
Savage is reading
Cats and
chat
dogs
out.
sleeping together.
For the million times I have looked at chat, this is the only time I've ever seen anything that actually resembles anything of use that I can talk about on here. No offense, chat, but
That's why I'm always
99% of the time it's horseshit.
No offense.
I've overheard this.
36,
It's
35, 34.
It's fossilized coral. Shut up, Walt.
One
Tiny razor which dehydrates the fleas, cuts up intestinal worms, even destroys microscopic dust mites. I mean, this is good stuff. This is good chat. Like this.
Yeah, there's a protocol for like intestinal parasites. Get them out of there. I've seen some really good applications. I'm excited to get started on a regimen.
Josh, do you think that that chat and the body of science ever go out and have a pint sometimes?
I think they definitely should. Think of all the things that could be said then. All the claims.
I think we should have
You've blown me
specific
away, mate.
shows. I think we should have specific shows dedicated to chat, if that's what you want. So we just sit there and look at chat.
You want to do that?
Because that's what we're doing.
Let's plan a show just for chat in the flatline.
Yep.
We'll get all
chat, flatline, speak pipe.
Speak pipe.
Hideous name, isn't it? Who came up with that? I know. Let's call it Speak Pipe.
Let's see. Pull up on my calendar right now. We're gonna ignore this bullshit time they want to call the New Year.
What about New Year's Eve? Yeah. Sorry.
Well, that's a Sunday.
What about December 31st?
On a Monday.
Dedicated to Monday. Yeah, perfect. I've got nothing to do for the next 3 weeks.
Well, then it's settled. We'll
Let's say every night.
Completely open schedule.
Every night.
So we have like the 28th to the 4th. That would sandwich their so-called New Year's.
Well, maybe we should ask if anyone would be interested in us doing that.
Well, this is the thing. We're going to plan it for the future. We can promote the living hell out of it, and we'll drum up excitement. How's that sound?
Build it, they will come.
Ideally. One button away, brothers.
I don't know. Just thought we're actually just sort of spitballing here on a Friday night as to how to make more than 33 watching.
I still want to do a Valentine's.
I think Selenium has some ideas for us.
So see, 28th of February. No, the 14th is a Thursday. So that means we could probably try to finagle one on the 15th. If we want to do that, we need to put in our requests early, I suppose.
I don't know. I'm an ass, apparently.
Yes, he's reading chat. It was the test.
See?
I tested it. See? Hashtag
It's
test
his
it.
nature. I've got screens all over the
hell
place here.
yes. Hell yes. Oh, that should get us at least 5 more viewers right there. Oh, brilliant.
How about the 11th? 111. We'll do a chat show with open phone lines.
111. That's cool.
What?
What are we doing for the 21st now that
Why so far away?
that's going to be the
Can
solstice and whatnot?
remember, if we build it, they will come. Well,
No,
promos
no.
are going to build themselves.
Right. We got to build them.
Hmm. I'll say we do it right now.
Right.
Right now. Open the lines up. Get your
Right.
shit on the chat. I'm looking at the chat. I'm reading it. I see you, the plain truth. I see you, Ross Thatcher. I see you, Trouble About. I see you, Flat Earth Head.
What?
Come on in.
I've just
Step
had a
this
little
up.
look at chat, right? And am I misreading it a bit? Are we receiving critique as to why we've only got 35 viewers? Because some people are listening in maybe for the first time and thinking we're a religious channel. This is your fault, Pastor Savage.
Yeah, we're religious.
There's anything we come off as, it's the religious channel.
That's it.
Amen, brother.
I've got nothing against. Well, no, that'd be wrong. Really.
That's not a truthful statement.
I'll backstep there. I'll backstep there. I personally am not religious in any way. I don't follow any books or texts or scriptures or anything. I just go on what I can see and what I can test. Simple as that. I have no problem if you have a religion or follow something. That's fine, as long as it doesn't get in my way of proving through other means that what we live on is a lie and has been for a long time.
I just
There you
wonder,
go.
was
There's my disclaimer.
did my mud flood rant about the genealogy of the Bible come off as the Bible is the word of God?
And
know
each
what I
of
mean?
those who were reading the chat, looking at a YouTube video and trying to draw something on PowerPoint. For those people, yeah, that's exactly what it sounded like. You religious nut job, you freak. You're bringing up, you said the word Bible. That clearly means that you are just a religious zealot, dogmatic bigot. There you go.
Oh, man.
If you weren't looking at the chat and Netflix and OBS and everything else, then you might have actually heard what he said. I'm going to shut up now. Jeez.
Well, just to round up, because I'm off to bed, because I was trying to read the chat on the screen. I have to keep lifting the phone up because it's all gone too blurry. But
Therein lies the problem.
well, I've put up on screen. I put my little festive seasonal window up, a non-denominational window, just snowflakes. As I'm non-denominational, you see. So, but I do think there's a creator. That's about as far as I could ever say. But with regards to the festive season, we've only got a couple of weeks. What are we doing? Has anyone any idea? Is Santa coming for the Christmas show or what? That says it all.
Santa?
Let's see.
I wore my splashy headband earlier. That don't count for anything.
I mean, I have a show on Tuesday morning. Let's see, at 4 a.m. I don't know. 28th or the 21st. You know what? 21st is my last day of work, and then I'm off till the New Year.
I'll tell you what. Since we're
Are we doing a
scheduling,
Christmas show?
We got the 22nd.
What?
Is it the 21st, 22nd? Will be next
since we're
Friday.
scheduling, can I propose?
Yeah.
Adam, can I propose that we have a show with no chat?
Absolutely.
If we're going to have a show with whatever it was we discussed and so and so and so, as an experiment.
Play
So-
music or just have dead silence.
Well, let's try
Or can we chat amongst ourselves?
chatting amongst ourselves. I thought would be quite cool.
The no chat really threw me off.
Okay, right, I got you. No digital chat, and that will
Can I text you?
show the men from the boys. You're not quite grasping this, are you?
I'm lost.
I'm talking. Do you remember how they once invented something called Skype, and you'd
Yeah.
have chats with people without hundreds of 30 other people looking in and talking in the background? Do you remember that?
I remember that, and if I'm being honest, John, I agree, don't you, Josh, that John's addiction with his 3 screens and chat has just become it's intolerable, frankly, and you need to pay attention.
I
You're really
wholeheartedly
Bogging down
agree.
the show, having to constantly refer back to people that are in chat, and you know,
I
rest of us who are
wholeheartedly
looking at
agree.
chat, the rest of us who are focused on the show don't even know what you're on about, John.
My name is John Savage, and I am a chat addict. I can't apologise enough.
You're a
And
chat.
I would like you all to help me with my chat addiction, and please allow us to host a show without the distraction of chat. Just calling me, just saying, come chat with me. I need your chat.
How about
So,
the next week, the week after our chat and open phone line show, we'll cut them off cold.
Cold turkey, none.
I like that idea. Somehow,
Watch out
it's
for you.
the masochist in me. Yeah, I think we have it all and everything on one week, and then zip, clean break, gone, no
Or we
chat,
have
and we'd
no
all be
chat
sat
before.
here.
We could do the no chat before, do it like a Sour Patch Kids. First they're sour, then they're sweet. Then the next week we can come back and open up the phone lines and then have a whole chat show.
I don't know. That's a bit teasing, but
I feel, Walt, I don't know about you, right, but I feel like a level of repetition to the whole gravity being overplayed discussions with this.
It is very familiar.
Yeah.
It's starting to have that smell.
He's started to crumble already. He's got 3 screens. He's starting to do it. I reckon by the proper New Year show, as said, he could be multitasking, engaging in chat and talking.
Shit.
I'll
Next
tell
thing
you
you know,
what.
meet up and have a pint of beer with people.
Mhm.
No, a
Ooh,
litre,
what'll happen?
not a pint. But
There you go.
since we're knocking
568
on
mils.
2 hours and 8 minutes into the second half of this wonderful Have No Sphere podcast, and we are starting to talk gibberish, it might be an idea to repeat Gravity and such music and sign us out. Because that's what I thought you were hinting at to start with.
Are you trying to say something, John? Savage.
It might be a good time to listen to Gravity and say our goodbyes.
I'm fine with
I'll
it.
be back in a day or two, and I'll have more ideas for you. Who's that? Is that Mr. Rogers?
Mr. Rogers, here's something creepy. Remember that weird guy with a creepy mustache that used to just walk into Mr. Rogers' house like they were best of pals when Mr. Rogers was busy talking to the little kids? What was that guy's name? Anybody remember? The mailman.
I have no idea.
Walter, was this
No,
before your time?
No, it's just not coming to me. I'm trying to remember. Mr. something. Come on, Mr. Feely?
Close. Mick Feely. He was Irish, I guess.
Feely. I was digging hard.
How
digging
creepy.
hard.
How creepy
Yeah, that's
is
pretty creepy.
I've just stepped into the twilight zone, I think.
that? Could be.
Oh, you're just with me in the Anglican zone.
You're right. That probably is lost to you folks there across the pond. It's all right.
We're all pretty high.
And on that note,
There we go. Here's just a little bit of music so I can get a gravity queued up. I guess I'll just do audio for gravity so we don't have to share screens or any of that goodness. But gentlemen, it's been a blast.
see
As
you in
always.
the
It has
after
indeed.
show.
Yeah, cheers,
Yeah,
boys.
love you guys.
Yeah, I love you guys.
all. Thank you all.
Well, join us back here next week. I have actually got John the Morgile in the pipe coming down soon. I just gotta nail him down for some specific times, but we'll have him right here on Have No Sphere on the Iron Rail Media YouTube channel. So that's gonna be fun and exciting.
I'll do a picture for that.
Did you just say you got John in the pipe? Okay,
Yes.
signing off.
Hallelujah.
All right. Everybody have a great rest of your weekend. I love you, and we will see you right back here next week.
And they're feeding to the ground.
Tell me when we're clear.
They got hold of me. They won't let go of me. Of me. They might have gravity on their side, but something's pulling us high. Got the potential to fly. Don't let them be what holds you back from this one incredible chance. They're lucky to have had a glance at you. Are you defy gravity? Savage! They can be cruel and mean and a huge pain. Our heads are in the clouds now. Don't let them make it rain. A smile can be the sign they're missing out on their rainy day. They might have gravity on their side, but something's pulling us high. Got the potential to fly. Don't let them be potential to fly. Oh yeah, don't let them be what holds you back from this one incredible chance. They're lucky to have had a glance at you. Oh, you defy gravity. You defy gravity. You defy gravity. Yeah, yeah. At you, oh, you defy gravity.
Eat a dick, gravity.
Put that in your pipe and smoke it.